This week on Album on the Table, the Magical Mystery Tour has come to take you away in the form of the soundtrack to the Beatles' film for television, The Magical Mystery Tour. Man, what? Okay. So, first off, this is probably the Beatles album that I was the least familiar with until I actually got copies of it. I had heard some of the songs, but not all of them.
I would say this is probably most people's least favorite Beatles album, including the Beatles themselves.
Maybe.
But it is not my least favorite. Definitely not.
I would say that it's probably people's least favorite because it's one they're the least familiar with.
I remember in one of the anthologies, I think it was John that said he kind of gave off the vibe that he didn't really like the album, but at least I'm the Walrus was on this album.
Yes.
So it was like it's saving grace to him.
It certainly is one of the more...
Let's talk about the show really quick.
Yeah, let's talk about the film.
So, this was a made-for-TV movie, which already is different. I mean, now it's not so different because...
We've had Movie of the Week for, decades now.
Well, not even that. I mean, now people don't even really have TV service that much anymore. Now, with everything being on demand... When you make a movie, you just expect people are going to watch it when they want to, not at a specific time.
Well, I think this was also, the made-for-TV movie that they did that coincides with this record. It kind of goes along with what they were already trying to do because they weren't performing live anymore. It was the idea that they weren't performing live. The videos were going to do the touring for them. So, we have Magical Mystery Tour, the film, to do the touring for them.
Now, we already talked about A Hard Day's Night and Help, which I love. I'm not a big fan of this movie.
To me,
can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I love that Paul directed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that because... I don't know if that was one of the first film projects he did at all, or whether he had been doing little shorts just for his own, personal. But it was like, I'm going to try something new. Even if I'm not excellent at it, I'm just going to do it. And I really, really appreciate that from Paul. Thank you, Paul, for stepping outside and being the director of this movie.
Yeah, because sometimes the only way you're actually going to learn to do something is by actually doing it. You could sit in a class all day long, you could read books on the same subject 10 times over and still not learn a single thing about something. Sometimes you just have to do it, and sometimes you just got to get your hands dirty. As far as comparatively quality-wise to the other Beatles films, this one definitely is on the stranger side of things. Definitely where the Beatles had their cheeky touches in the storytelling and the script writing. It's kind of an all-over-the-place film with a storyline, but then there's also the interspersed music videos within it. So... it's a very interesting collection. It's actually finally been, a couple years ago, it was finally officially had an Apple Music sanctioned release, and I'm not talking Apple computers, I'm talking like the Beatles record label that handles all this stuff. Actually saw an official release. For years, all you could find were bootleg copies. So... it's out there, and if you want to find a copy, I would recommend it if you're, a Beatles
Well, let's talk about a couple of songs.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the songs on here.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of really great songs on here. It's just the lack of familiarity, I feel, is like its weakness.
The Fool on the Hill.
Oh my god.
Great song. And I think visually, it's kind of represented by Paul... just being this lonely guy.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I really love... If you were to just think of Beatles songs, think of Beatles songs, I think one of the songs you might think of is Strawberry Fields Forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Its uniqueness in its sound, and is that the Leslie speaker? Is it the Mellotron? What's happening there?
Oh yeah, the intro is the Mellotron.
That is great. And that's a sound that everyone's always trying to duplicate.
Yeah.
So a great song. And then another timeless Beatles song, All You Need Is Love.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how many times people just bring that up in pop culture, in whatever context? Lucy in the Peanuts, All You Need Is Love.
But a little chocolate now and then doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this album to be, one that people don't like so much, there's actually some really classic songs on here.
And not even so much that there's classic songs on here, because there are plenty of classic songs on here. Fool on the Hill, I would consider a classic, personally. Hello Goodbye, another classic. Strawberry Fields, another classic. Penny Lane, another one. All You Need Is Love. Classic Beatles songs that people will immediately associate with the Beatles and the group. But there are some, interesting ones that don't quite fit the Beatles mold, like the songs Flying and Blue Jay Way, which to me you could just group together in one composition. Interesting note though, Flying is actually, I believe,
the last song.
No. It's the only Beatles song that actually was written by all 4 members.
Huh.
And it was an instrumental. So each band member made a contribution to that song. And it's the only example of that in the entire Beatles catalog, if I remember correctly. Blue Jay Way being a George Harrison tune. It's
great.
I remember hearing it for the first time and not knowing whether I liked it or not. Because to me it was so sleepy. But then the more and more I listened to it, the more I was like, no, this is really good. This is great. Like, I feel it's I think the story of the song is very evocative of a lot of my experiences growing up, because when I listen to it, there's the opening line is, there's a fog upon LA and my friends have lost their way. The song was written because of George's experiences driving in the Hollywood Hills with a heavy, dense fog that you could barely see in front of you in the car. And I can relate to a lot of that growing up in that area of LA.
I feel like the song has a very cinematic sound to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where there's like that one part that seems like a choir, like it could be a children's choir, essentially.
Right.
As the composer came up with that. I don't know, it just has a very interesting feel.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the songs, obviously there are songs written for the film and that were used in the film. There are songs that didn't get used in the film that are on this particular album, which I guess you could say this is half soundtrack, half compilation.
And it's very hard to see since it's very small. But if you ever want to see the Beatles dancing, you should watch Magical Mystery Tour.
So
it's pretty fun.
I guess the best thing I can say to sum all this up is, I feel like this album is the one that people are least aware of and the least familiar with, which maybe leads to it being the more obscure one. So do yourself a favor, pick up a copy of the album, pick up a copy of the film. It's not going to hurt you to watch it. I don't think you can find it on Netflix. I don't think you can find it anywhere other than a store. So get out your house and go buy a copy. Or buy
Because
it on Amazon.
all you need is love.
And a little Beatles now and then doesn't hurt.